I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Chris Christie, Republican candidate for the presidential nomination, has this message for Donald Trump. If you had the guts, you would show up to the debate and say it to my face. Say it to my face, coward. That's the message. Powerful one from Chris Christie to Donald Trump. I want to show you some other incredibly powerful statements just made by Chris Christie, totally calling out and exposing Donald Trump. And while I disagree with Chris Christie on probably most issues, I appreciate that he is the only major candidate seeking the Republican presidential nomination that is going after Donald Trump and saying mostly all pretty true stuff to go after Trump and doing it powerfully. You know, Chris Christie was a former top federal prosecutor. Say what you want to say about him. He is very smart, and you can see how he calls Donald Trump out. The way he calls Donald Trump out, he's clearly getting under Donald Trump's skin. So Donald Trump, in a speech in a small gym in New Hampshire earlier in the week, called, this is the maturity of this malignant, narcissistic, sociopathic moron, Trump called Chris Christie a fat pig, or said, don't call him a fat pig. Here's what Trump said, then I'm going to show you all the things that Chris Christie said, which is actually intelligent and smart and clearly bothering Donald Trump. First, play the clip of Trump.
Who's good? No, Christie's, he's eating right now. He can't be bothered. Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. That's very disrespectful. Don't call him. See, I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig. You can't do it. You can't do that. So now, because you're not allowed to do that, and therefore we're not going to do it, okay? We want to be very civil, right? So the latest...
Now, Chris Christie said in front of an audience, and by the way, these crowds are getting bigger for Chris Christie. What I expect to happen, I think Chris Christie expects it to happen too. You're going to get all these MAGA Republicans who are running, who are just sycophants of Trump. They're going to drop out. And I think you're going to have Chris Christie versus Donald Trump. We'll see if I'm right. But here, Chris Christie fires back at Trump saying, oh, yeah, he's a big talker when we're a few miles away. But where I'm from, you say something to another man's face. Played the clip from Chris Christie.
He's a big talker when we're a few miles away from each other. He's got a lot to say when he's got a phone in his hand, posting something on social media. We're going to know what he's really made of if we see whether he shows up 2 weeks from tonight or not on that stage. Because I'll tell you one thing for sure. I will be there, and I am waiting for him, and then we'll answer him. Because where I grew up and the way I was raised was a man who has something to say to another man, comes up to him and looks him in the eye and says it to him. And a coward does the opposite. So we'll see if the coward shows up 2 weeks from tonight in Milwaukee, but I will be there. Yep.
Here, Chris Christie saying how all of the America First thing that Donald Trump talks about is a big joke. Play the clip.
This whole America First thing from Donald Trump is the biggest joke I've ever heard in my life. He never puts America first. It's Donald Trump first. Donald Trump first. Everything else behind that. And we need a president who is now going to say, America first.
Chris Christie on Donald Trump undermining American people's faith in democracy. Play the clip.
But your feelings about Donald Trump as a person, as a candidate, as a president, have evolved quite significantly over time.
Sure. He's left me. And, this is not the guy that I've known all those years. In fact, when he decided on election night 2020, Brett, to say the election was stolen, when we now know, I know, and any objective person knows the election was not stolen. When he stood behind the seal of the President of the United States in the East Room of the White House and said that was it for me. You cannot undermine the American people's faith in democracy because your ego is hurt, because you're the first person to ever lose to Joe Biden outside the state of Delaware. I understand that must hurt to lose to somebody as feeble and incompetent as Joe Biden, but he did. And if we nominate him this time, he will again. He's left me, Brett. And that's why I need to stand up and make sure the truth is told about this. And quite frankly, I don't understand why my other colleagues in this race are not saying it, except that either they're unwilling or too scared to do it. I'm neither. And I'll be there 2 weeks from tonight with you and Martha to make this case and the case for why Christie presidency is the right one for America.
Here, Chris Christie, I think, makes a brilliant point, saying even if you accept what Donald Trump's lawyers are saying is his defense, free speech, totally wrong. It's not a free speech issue, but they're admitting that Donald Trump violated his oath under the Constitution. And they're saying that's a free speech thing. Play the clip.
Let's put aside if it's legal or illegal for a second. Is this the kind of conduct that the Republican Party or the American people want from someone who's going to be president? To send out tweets or posts, whatever they are, that he sends on Truth Social, saying this kind of stuff, threatening people, in trying to intimidate Mike Pence, trying to intimidate the judge. Mike Pence, as we know, he just falls in the line of Rex Tillerson and Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr and all these folks who were the best people ever when he hired them.
Right.
And then as soon as they say something that
and extraordinarily loyal also to him.
Yes. And as soon as they disagree with him, then they become the worst people on earth. The things he wrote about Mike Pence. Look, I'm running against Mike. I want to make sure I beat him and I become the Republican nominee. But he doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve those comments.
The former president's lawyer, a new lawyer, John Lauro, is defending the president's actions, obviously. He says a technical violation of the Constitution is not a violation of criminal law. Does that make sense to you?
No. And he admits that the president violated his oath. Think about that. The President of the United States promises to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. His own lawyer has admitted he violated the Constitution.
I want to play something he told Laura Ingraham on Fox last week.
What President Trump said is, let's go with option D. Let's just halt. Let's just pause the voting and allow the state legislatures to take one last look and make a determination as to whether or not the elections were handled fairly. That's constitutional law. That's not an issue of criminal activity.
Did he admit the president committed a crime? I mean, because the president is charged with corrupt obstruction of an official proceeding.
Right. He did. And let me say what else he did. He's opposite of what the evidence is. Mike Pence has been very clear about this. He said the president didn't ask him to halt or pause. He said that he was asked by the president to reverse it.
Chris Christie basically saying Donald Trump's a total idiot with no sense of history, no intellectual curiosity. Play the clip.
The problem with Donald Trump is that he knows no sense of history, has no intellectual curiosity, and doesn't care whether he puts himself before the country at every turn. So when he sits now, Mika, and says, well, I'm getting indicted for you, it is so patently absurd. Not only because all the content he's getting indicted for were things he didn't have to do and he chose himself to do, had nothing to do with protecting the American people. How are the American people benefited by him keeping boxes of classified documents in Mar-a-Lago? That was there, and you guys know this. He was there just for him to continue to pretend he was president and show off for people who were on the back patio at Mar-a-Lago by showing them things he shouldn't have been showing them. And so he's not putting America first. That's the great irony of this campaign is Donald Trump saying he's going to put America first. He has not put America first. He's put Donald Trump first.
Chris Christie, like I, also believe that Mark Meadows has flipped on Trump. Play the clip.
Do you think Mark Meadows is going to testify?
Oh, I've said all along, I think already a cooperating witness. He has all the looks of a cooperating witness, running into coffee shops away from the press.
And he's disappeared in the indictment. I mean, he's referenced once or twice.
Right.
But
So when you didn't see Mark Meadows as an unindicted co-conspirator, and you see absolutely no mention of him at all.
How devastating do you think his testimony could be?
it could be the worst testimony for him outside of the family members, because Mark Meadows was with him constantly during that period of time.
And involved in all of it, in Georgia, in the electors.
He was a very involved chief of staff in my experience. He made sure he was in every meeting and every conversation. So, and we remember there are hundreds of text messages that he turned over to the special counsel that he kept.
And many more that he kept.
Yeah.
Chris Christie slamming Donald Trump, how Trump is a completely self-centered, self-possessed, self-consumed, angry old man. Play the clip.
That mission for now is taking on Donald Trump his way.
I oppose him for his incompetence. I oppose him for his broken promises before we ever get to any of the criminal indictments.
What's the truth on Trump?
He's a completely self-centered, self-possessed, self-consumed, angry old man. And he doesn't care about anybody else other than him. And if he were ever to become president again, I'll take him at his word. He said, I am your retribution. Well, he's not our retribution, Bob. He will be his own retribution.
Why is everyone else in the field seemingly avoiding Trump, tiptoeing around him?
I think it's one of two things. They're either unwilling to do it because they have aspirations, maybe a vice presidential bid or a Trump cabinet, and some of them are just unable to do it. If you want to be the man, Bob, you got to beat the man.
Back to Donald Trump. He's terrified of debating Chris Christie. Play this clip of Trump.
I mean, I have a problem with the debate for another reason. I wouldn't sign the pledge. Why would I sign a pledge? There are people on there that I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have certain people as, somebody that I'd endorse. So they want you to sign a pledge. But I can name 3 or 4 people that I wouldn't support for president. So right there, there's a problem, okay? Right there, there's a problem.
And there you have it, folks. Wanted to show you the different lines of attack that Chris Christie has on Donald Trump. And look, I think those are powerful messages. And again, do I disagree with Chris Christie on a lot of things? Absolutely. But most of the stuff he's saying here is spot on and something I want to use the MeidasTouch Network channel to amplify. I think it's important. Chris Christie, a Republican, someone who is a conservative, saying what Trump's doing ain't conservative. There's nothing conservative about that behavior. That behavior's traitorous, treasonous, weird. And Chris Christie's calling it out. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. Check us out at MeidasTouch.com, the new home of all things MeidasTouch. MeidasTouch.com.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.